All right, we're back. Welcome to another episode of Discernment Now. My name is Rich Van Every. This is Kevin Anthony. And we are so excited for this episode. We are getting into more stimulating conversation about what it means to discern the world around us, especially coming through the legacy media pipeline, which is just loaded with a lot of BS and a couple little hints of truth, maybe. I don't know. What do you think, Kev? What do we got?
Well, it's mostly all BS, but
we're going to help you figure it out because, you know, we all need to sometimes get another perspective, right? Keeping an open mind, that's what it's about.
Mm-hmm. All right, so first story today. The U.S. military lost an F-35 jet.
No, they didn't. No.
So if you haven't heard about this story, apparently an F-35, which is our latest, greatest, next generation fighter, cost $80 to $100 million to make one jet, suddenly just disappeared. Yeah. The story was that the pilot had to eject and then they couldn't figure out where the plane went.
Yeah.
But it gets even funnier than that.
Did you see the plane?
The military put out, I don't know if it was a tweet or something like that said, hey, if you see our missing F-35, let us know. It's $100 million plane. How do you lose it? We have the most protected and monitored airspace in the world, and we cannot figure out where this F-35 went.
Yeah, let's drag it out for a week, keep everyone pacified, shall we?
Well, here's the reason why we bring it up on this show. This is absolute bullshit. You cannot tell me they don't know where this thing went. Yeah, they know where it went. They just don't want to tell you where it went. And you know what? After the initial
the aliens, or was it China? Somebody intercepted it.
After the initial report, they said that the pilot had to bail due to bad weather. Sorry, you don't bail due to bad weather. You fly below bad weather. You fly above bad weather. Oh. You land at the nearest airport. You don't eject out of $100 million plane because of bad weather. You would also, by the way, know that you were flying into bad weather before bad weather even happened.
Yeah.
So this is complete nonsense.
Yeah.
This story literally is as dumb as one of the first stories we ever covered on this show, Chinese spy balloon.
Yeah.
It is that dumb because nothing even... Look, the government lies to you all day long, every single day about everything. Mm. But some lies are plausible. They seem to make sense.
Yeah.
And some lies are so blatantly ridiculous that even the people who are sound asleep can't believe them. And that's what this story is. So what happened to the F-35? We have no idea. A couple days later, they claim that they found some debris and that it crashed. But that story was about as unbelievable as the, we had to eject due to bad weather version of the story. And the thing that you see with these stories also is, as the days go by, the story changes, and then it changes again, and then it changes again. So we don't know what happens to it. There are some theories as to what happens to it. One of the theories is that the plane got hacked, that it was literally hacked and controlled remotely, and that's why the pilot bailed. That, honestly, is probably the most plausible theory that I've heard. Is it true? I have no idea. And we'll probably never know. The other thing that I find is interesting, though, is that the whole story's just completely disappeared from the media now. You don't hear anything about it.
Yeah.
It was kind of like Spy Balloon,
Yeah.
We let Spy Balloon fly across the entire country and gather all this intelligence till it was out over the Atlantic Ocean. Then they shoot it down, and it dominates the news for a solid week, and then you never hear from it again.
Yeah.
So that
served its purpose, because they're into distracting, dividing, confusing, and perhaps just bread and circus. I mean, they just want to keep us pacified, not focusing on things that really matter.
Well,
a lot of times.
Yes, but this one makes no sense.
Right.
Why admit you lost it? Why tell people that you can't find it?
Yeah.
Why make up dumbass story after dumbass story? Nothing about this story makes any sense whatsoever.
Well, it's kind of like our, proposed commander-in-chief who's a, dementia patient. And, you just think that, wow, maybe they just want America to look so incompetent. They just want so that we do need some kind of new world disorder.
I don't know. I honestly don't know with this one. I'm just reporting to you that it's what happened.
I ignored it pretty much. A lot of this was new to me because I just refused to actually even listen to it. I just thought it was so ridiculous, which is good because on the spy balloon, I was a little bit intrigued. I thought maybe there was. I kind of took the bait a little bit on that one. This one, I actually was right away. I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I'm improving.
I don't know. All that we really want you to know is don't pay attention to the official narrative because it makes no sense whatsoever. Think a little bit about it. All right, next story.
Okay.
The Democratic National Committee is once again cheating their own candidates. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Late drum roll.
Publicly announced that the Democratic National Committee was changing the rules on how the whole primary election system works. And he described exactly how they changed the rules. I don't really need to go into what they changed, but what you need to know is that the way they changed the rules would basically make it impossible for him to win the nomination. Now, you're thinking, that sounds weird. Why would they do that?
Yeah.
If you're thinking that, you are watching the wrong show.
Yeah.
Right? Because
they like to change definitions. They like to change rules. They like to break rules.
Well, they do anything and everything they can to maintain control.
And they're getting sloppy about it.
What I want to remind you of is what they did to Bernie Sanders. Remember, they did the exact same thing. They changed all the rules. They broke all their own rules. Sometimes they didn't even change them. They just flat out broke their own rules to make sure that Bernie was never going to get the nomination.
And they gave him a black eye.
Well, that is a whole other thing. But they got sued for what they did to Bernie. And in court, lawyers for the Democratic National Committee had to admit that they had no obligation at all to give the nomination to the candidate the people voted for in the primaries. They literally say, you can go read the court documents yourself, that they can do whatever fuck they want.
Yeah.
And give it to whoever they want, regardless of whatever bread and circus show they put on for months ahead of time.
Yeah. Why have rules when it's just meant to, just be well, actually voting's not about a republic, keeping any sort of democracy per se. I don't really like that word, but
well, we don't have a democracy. Short aside here, we have a constitutional republic. We do not have a democracy. Democracy is mob rule, right?
Yeah.
So the majority rules. So 51% of the people decide the other 49% should die, they die. That's democracy. That's why we were not set up as a democracy. We were set up as a representative constitutional republic.
Right.
Therefore, we have representation that prevents majority rule. Okay, that's just an aside.
Good side note.
The reason they're changing the rules to cheat RFK is not so much because they want to prevent him from getting the nomination. I mean, they absolutely do. But what we know now from court testimony from the lawsuit with the Bernie Sanders campaign is that they don't actually have to change the rules to prevent RFK from getting the nomination. Why are they changing the rules then? Because they want to make it look legit. They can say, well, here are the rules, and the rules say, so therefore he didn't meet the requirements. They'll, of course, fail to tell you that they changed the rules and that the rules make absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
But they'll never tell you those parts.
Yeah. So consider yourself lucky that you're watching this show right now because you're getting another perspective, maybe some info that you haven't heard. And when you think about the way the media is structured, it really is segregated, and certain people will only get, especially if they're listening to only mainstream news, they won't even question some of this stuff they said the rules changed, and they don't even have the time or energy to look into why.
They won't ask what the change was. They won't stop to critically think about how this change works and how it might potentially
but it's got to be justified.
Cheat somebody out of it.
If the National Committee is doing it.
Okay, next one on the list. The NIPAH virus. So in the last week, you're starting to hear about this outbreak of the NIPAH virus. I believe it was in Africa where they were having this outbreak of NIPAH. Here's what you need to know about that. You don't really need to know a whole lot about NIPAH or that particular outbreak. What you need to know is they are prepping you. They are prepping you. This is an election year going into 2024. You're either going to see a repeat of coronavirus, or if that doesn't work, then they're going to do a Marburg virus, a NIPAH virus, or an Ebola virus. Or basically, they're going to come up with some other virus to make you really scared and think you're going to die and stay home and vote by mail. There it is. Yeah. That's what it's all about.
Cheat. So or a world war possibly, or
possibly,
some other crises. But I think they're going to play this card.
A world war though won't make people stay home.
Right.
That's the thing.
Right.
So that'll keep them in fear. That'll be reasons to siphon off billions of dollars and
crush more businesses.
Do all that kind of stuff. But it's not going to get people to stay home and vote by mail, which is what they really want, so they can use it to cheat the elections.
Yeah.
So remember with coronavirus, after the 8th variant or something like that, people stopped caring, right? They started to get clued in that this actually wasn't dangerous, and that if they just used some simple treatments, everything would be fine. And so what did they try to do? Monkey virus. Oh, there's a monkeypox virus. And people just laughed at it. They laughed at it, and then after a week or two, the media dropped it because nobody was buying it, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're going to see here. You'll probably see a repeat of coronavirus, but since there's been so many reports coming out showing that coronavirus is not dangerous, they're probably going to switch it up with some other kind of virus. So that's what you need to be aware of in this particular story.
And it's on a side note, our condolences for anybody who did suffer or did lose somebody, and not to say that people have not been getting poisoned in one way or another. But
people died, but most
especially
of the people
elderly
died due to the treatment.
Yeah, and primarily elderly people may have had adverse reactions. So it is an autoimmune type.
Multiple comorbidities and people who were given the incorrect treatment.
So with that context, we are saying that it's quite laughable in general, but there are, it's a lot of confusion still, I think, in people's minds about what and how and why people have gotten sick and died and have been murdered, basically, in the Western medical system.
The other thing is some of these other viruses are potentially significantly more dangerous than coronavirus. The question is, will these quote-unquote next pandemics even be real? Because the coronavirus pandemic wasn't actually a pandemic. It was manufactured through statistical manipulation. So indeed there might be another dangerous virus, but is it actually pandemic level? Most likely not.
Yeah. You'll know it if it is.
All right, next story. So we did a hostage exchange with Iran.
Don't say it's true.
The Biden administration gave 5 hostages in return for 5 hostages. Okay, that sounds reasonable. Except Biden also gave them $6 billion. Now, wait a minute.
Why? To sweeten the deal a little bit.
Why would we give $6 billion and 5 people just to get 5 people back? Why wouldn't we just do
Ukraine is more important
5
than America.
to 5?
We have to save Ukraine in order to save the... I don't know what...
That has nothing to do with this.
Okay.
Nice Biden impression.
Oh, right.
So why would they do that? Especially a known terrorist state like Iran. And here's the laughable part. You want to have a good laugh today? Come on, I know you need a laugh today. The Biden administration told Iran that they were only allowed to use the $6 billion for humanitarian purposes.
Oh, I love that. That's so sweet.
Because Iran is such a trustworthy government.
I don't think I'm going to laugh. I'm going to cry.
If Iran says they're only going to use it for humanitarian purposes, we can be rest assured they're only going to use it for humanitarian.
Oh, my heart's so touched.
Fucking kidding me?
My heart.
You know what they're going to do? They're going to put it straight towards nuclear weapons or, some other weapon. They're going to use it to... And by the way, here's a point that a lot of people have made about this. If you give a country $6 billion to get hostages back, what do you think that's going to do for the safety of Americans around the world? Every single one of these terrorist states is going to go, let's go grab some Americans because we can cash in and get $6 billion. Or maybe we'll hold out for $10 billion or maybe $15 billion, depending on how many Americans we...
Good business. Wow, this is, they got it. They got the precedent is set, and it's like, hey,
It's incredibly
amazing,
stupid.
Yeah.
So I can't say exactly why the Biden administration did that. I can only theorize. My theories have to do with the corruption, and somehow that money is coming back to them or helping one of their
some kind
corrupt
of laundering
plans.
scheme.
I don't know that for sure, but it makes no sense whatsoever to give $6 billion to Iran in exchange for these hostages when you're already giving back 5 hostages. Yeah. So, the important point there is something doesn't smell right here.
No.
This doesn't make any sense. This is only encouraging terrorists to kidnap more Americans and potentially giving them a whole lot of money that they can use to do a whole lot of bad things.
Yeah. Terrible.
All right. Next story. Illinois and Los Angeles have gotten rid of bail. Now, this has happened in other places for certain types of crimes, but apparently now they've gotten rid of bail altogether, which means it's no longer, hey, if you steal under $1,000, they won't arrest you, or if you steal over $1,000, they'll arrest you, but there's no bail and you can just be back out on the street. You could literally murder somebody now, be back on the street the same day, disappear, never show up for your court date ever again.
Wow.
Right? So again, we've talked about this on the show in the past when we talked about defunding the police and what the consequences of that would be.
Right.
This is not rocket science.
No.
This is not something that, we think maybe it'll work and we just need to try it. It's an experiment. We know what the consequences of these behaviors will be. If you get rid of bail, if you don't arrest people for crimes under certain values, you're going to get more crime and more criminals on the street. Right. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no argument that you can possibly make on the other side of this. So then you have to ask, why are states doing this? Now, I can't answer that question for you. I can only, again, theorize what I think is going on. They want crime in the cities.
Yeah.
They want to destabilize the country.
Yeah.
If they didn't want that, they wouldn't be doing things like this. Everybody knows what the result is going to be.
Yeah.
Everybody. They know it too.
Yeah. And so for me, the tendency is to not blame it on the radical left, which is really a communist, fascist aspect of whoever's pulling strings amongst our government, because the other side is, in a sense, allowing it to happen as well. Even though I think a lot of this is happening in democratically driven states or cities.
It's all being done in democratic-run cities or states.
So it's so easy and quick to blame like the left and right, two wings of the same bird
plenty
scenario.
Of swampy Republicans. However, you are not seeing policies like
nonsense.
This anywhere in Republican-controlled territory. You're not. You're just not seeing it.
It's an anti-American endeavor, and somehow we have got to figure out a way to stop it or hopefully they're going to fall on.
Well, so why do we bring this up in this show, right? Well,
it's important to know, for one.
Because you need to know about it. You need to know that if you keep voting for the people who are implementing these policies, you're going to get more of these policies. And sooner or later, these policies are going to affect you. You're going to get carjacked, mugged, robbed. Your house is going to get broken into. You're going to get shot in the street. Something's going to happen, right? Yeah. And then you're going to go, well, why didn't they blah, blah, blah? They didn't because you let them do stupid stuff like this.
Yeah, the writing's on the wall. It's just if you're willing to read it or not is the question.
Indeed.
All right. What's next?
All right. So a whistleblower has come forward and raised serious concerns about a possible U.S. government cover-up. Say it isn't so.
Protect those whistleblowers.
Yeah. So what has this whistleblower come out and said? Well, this whistleblower has accused the CIA of bribing people to lie about the origin of COVID-19. So, of course, we had the bat theory of coronavirus, and then we had the lab leak theory. So, apparently, this whistleblower is accusing the CIA of going around and paying people to say that it did not come from the lab. Now, this isn't hard to believe. We already have all the evidence. We have the emails from Anthony Fauci and others who were involved in covering this up as well. They specifically went on a campaign to discredit the lab leak theory, when even in their own emails, the experts at the very beginning were saying this looks like it came from the lab. And they absolutely covered it up because they didn't want you to know that. So here it is. Looks like the CIA was also involved in this. No big shocker there. If there's something absolutely horrible happening in the world, the CIA is probably behind it, or at least involved in it.
Yeah.
So that's not a big surprise.
Yeah.
But again, you need to know this stuff, because when you hear the media come out and say all the experts and 50 intel officers have signed on saying blah 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 blah, you can pretty much bet it's bullshit.
Yeah. So that is the tricky thing sometimes with whistleblowers, right? To discern which ones are legit and which ones aren't. You kind of have to already know to some degree about the story and the outcome. And I think with the lab theory, as much as bioweapons are real, we are also experiencing a lot of other toxicity and poisoning in other ways that kind of feed into that narrative for people, or that facade of it being a big thing. So, because as much as I was on that camp of lab theory, I've kind of almost transcended beyond it now. And so this whistleblower, because they are allowing it out on mainstream news, right, which is a red flag in itself to say that it's either partially or completely off. What are your thoughts on that, Kev? Because I really think that
my thoughts on it are
like maybe they are kind of trying to create this divide. That's one thing they do, and then the other one is that maybe it's not even really about the lab theory. It's about trying to keep people thinking it's that when it's actually something else.
So here are my thoughts on that. It is true that whistleblower testimony doesn't mean it's real. We've seen plenty of quote-unquote whistleblowers come forth that were later on disproven. However, this does fit with facts that we already know.
Right.
So this is just one other detail or fact.
Yeah, it's part of a big puzzle.
There is the theory that, so the media absolutely, and the Biden administration, have denied from day one pretty much that the lab leak theory had any credibility. And we saw a huge campaign by Fauci and others to discredit that. Then all of a sudden, they suddenly decided to start reporting that it looks like it did come from the lab. And so this is where people start going, well, wait a minute, if the mainstream media is talking about it, then this must be a red herring. This must be to distract us away from that. It's possible that that's true. What I think is really going on here is, at a certain point, you sort of, it's like the snowball effect. Like at a certain point, it gets so much momentum, you can't stop it anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened with this story is so much information came out really demonstrating that this was indeed leaked from the lab, that they couldn't deny it anymore. So instead, they changed the narrative from did it come from the lab or did it not come from the lab to was it intentional or was it an accident? Because they just couldn't deny it anymore. Now, to your point about, maybe the virus had nothing to do with it, maybe it was some other thing that they were up to, some other toxicity, that's entirely possible. But it seems to me, from what I can tell, a virus called COVID-19 does exist and was released from the lab. Was that what was causing the symptoms?
Right. And it may not actually be a virus, but we're calling it that. And it may not actually be, contracted in the way that generally viruses are known to be contracted. But yeah. So
those are all details, and they're important details when talking about, what we're calling a pandemic and our response to it. But those details aren't really relevant when it comes to, did it come from a lab? Did it not come from a lab?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, this story is really just about the fact that there's a lot of powerful organizations, including the CIA, the Biden administration, NIAID, NIH, all these organizations that were really trying to bury
that idea,
the fact that it came from a lab. So,
well, I'm plugging the Watch the Water documentary done by Stu Peters. I think that that's a good point of interest, and also just knowing that electromagnetic frequencies cause flu-like symptoms, and that is also potentially a part of the equation here. But
Yeah,
moving
you know
on.
what? Watch Stew with a grain of salt.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
Just-
Watch
just
everyone
put
with a
that-
grain of salt.
Put
but
that out there.
I like most of the stuff he puts out.
All right, next story. Russel Brand is now being accused of sexual misconduct.
Oh, please.
Okay,
Stop
again,
it. Just stop it.
accusations are just that. They are just accusations. However,
Yeah.
there's a reason why we're talking about this, and it's not so much because we care about Russell Brand. I mean, I like the information he puts out there. He's one of the few no-nonsense straight talkers, I think. The reason we bring it up, however, is because I want you to recognize a pattern that has been used for decades and decades and decades. If you are a powerful man, it's almost always men because it's just easier for people to understand and believe. If you are a powerful man and powerful interests want to take you down, they disagree with you. So let's say you're against the mainstream narrative. You are against the current administration's narrative or the intelligence agency's narrative or, you know, an organization like the World Health Organization or the World Economic Forum. If you're against any of those things and you have any actual power in this world, and Russell Brand has power because he's got a large audience and a lot of people listen to him. One of the very first things they will always do to try to take you down is accuse you of sexual misconduct. So usually, you know, they'll try all the usual stuff. They'll censor you. They'll label you a conspiracy theorist. You know, They'll try to deplatform you, all that normal stuff.
Yeah.
But when that doesn't work and you're still out there with a big audience, the next thing is sexual misconduct.
Yeah. I mean, why actually try and rebuke the information he's putting out when you can just smear his character?
Well, that's what they always do. You know,
come
when so many of these people in the last few years who've come out with alternative lines to the narrative,
Right.
they can never attack it because they generally have good information behind them. Not all of them. There's plenty of crackpots out there and people that just want to exploit. But the good ones generally have information to back up what they're saying.
Yeah.
And since they can't dispute the information, they go with the character assassination. So I just want people to understand that I don't know if these allegations are true or not. Russell Brand has been very open about the fact that in his younger days, he was extremely sexually active.
Guy, he liked to party.
I don't know. I honestly have no idea, but I do know this.
Yeah.
This is something that is used time and time again. It is an old and often used political strategy. Attack people by paying people to accuse you of sexual misconduct. So view this entire situation through that lens. Every detail you hear, every story that you hear about it, think about, is this real or is this just another frame up? And then make up your own mind.
Yeah.
All right. We got one last story for this episode, which is good because we're getting right down to the end.
Yes.
Trying to keep these about 30 minutes so you get a quick hit
Yeah.
and you get what you need to know.
And you pass it on.
All right. While President Joe Biden continues to tout his economic plan, which he calls Bidenomics, and highlight job growth rates and decline in inflation, which none of which is actually true. A recent poll, this is a ABC News Washington Post poll, I believe, shows that 44% of Americans believe they are worse off financially under this administration.
Oh, I would
And
double
apparently these numbers are the highest in 37 years for any president that they've polled.
that.
So
It's 88%, not 44.
well, you know.
That's how you lie with statistics, right? That's a great book that everyone should know about.
Oh, you mean that's the book that Bill Gates had on his coffee table during one of his videos that he did out there, How to Lie Through Statistics. Look,
gotta notice those details.
It likely is higher than 44%. It depends. It depends how they asked the question and who they polled and all that kind of stuff. But here's the important point. The important point is this. You didn't need a poll to figure that out. All you had to do was go put gas in your car or go to the grocery store or look at what your rent, or if you have a variable rate mortgage, what your mortgage payment is like. Everybody in this country knows how bad it is economically because They see it every single day. Food prices through the roof, rent prices through the roof, housing prices through the roof.
Just death by 1,000 cuts, just slash. It is insane right now. So I don't think, can I make a note here? Because my understanding is that we haven't actually, generally, I think middle, lower class haven't really had, prices are going up, but income has not gone up since the 70s or something.
Yes, this has been insane. A problem our entire lifetime.
Yes.
And we ain't young. We're half a century old.
We're 50.
Right? But that's been a problem our entire lifetime, which is that inflation has continued to go up.
Yeah. But
wages have stayed flat for decades.
Yeah.
Insane. So you're pretty much making the same amount of money.
Just crushing the middle lower class.
But everything costs double what it used to.
Yeah.
Right. So but that's the whole point.
They're coming for you is the point. All right. So
they're intentionally trying to crush the middle class. They don't want a middle class. They want 99% of the people to be poor lower class and 1% to be ultra wealthy upper class. That's what they're trying to create.
And they're succeeding to some degree at the moment. But hopefully by the power of the people, things will change. We'll see.
I just wanted to bring this story up to you because I wanted you to know that you're not the only one that's feeling the pain. Lots of other people get it too. And you know it. If you're watching this, every time you go to the store and that thing you used to buy is now almost double what it used to be. Yeah.
$150 for half a tank of gas in my truck.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll about sum it up.
I got a smaller truck than you. It cost me $120 just to fill it up.
Yeah.
And everybody feels that. Now, granted, we're in California here where gas prices are ridiculously high. Most of the country is not that high. However, you are significantly higher than where you were and where you should be. And that is when it comes to gas prices, that is a direct result of the Biden administration. They just canceled more oil and gas leases. They took us from being energy independent. Mm-hmm. We were actually, for the first time in this country's history, a net exporter of energy under the Trump administration. And now we are once again dependent on foreign oil.
Yeah, and don't buy any of the green nonsense about how and why renewables are the future because they're only taking us off the cliff faster.
That is very true. We don't have time in this show to go over all the problems with that.
Yeah, I'm just going to drop that in the bucket.
But that is true.
So if you're not educated, get to work.
So Biden's approval rating now on the economy sits at 30%, which is historically low.
Yeah.
Ridiculously low. And it should be that low. In fact, it should be at 0 given how bad things are economically.
5%, maybe 2%.
Honestly, if there's anybody that thinks he's doing a good job, I'm sorry if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, whatever, this is a great economy, Biden, you're an idiot. There's no other way to say it. There's no possible metric or statistic that you can look at to show that this is not the most disastrous economy in 5 decades.
Yeah, you're under smell, snap out of it, and pull it together, will you?
All right, that's all I got for you in this episode, but that was enough.
Thank you for bringing those stories to light for us, Kevin. It's been a lively show, and we're just going to keep holding the faith. We're going to stay healthy. We're going to keep our immune system strong and look out for one another because that's all we got. And stay tuned for the next episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a good week. Stay free and stay healthy.